to just highlight three things. Firstly, I'm not a comedian or an aspiring comedian. So, Yusuf, I'm not about to give up my day job. Secondly, last week, the same time, we accepted a challenge. And that was for our team, being Fees for Service, and to get a name for ourselves. And the name that we have come up with, I'm sure some of you have already heard, is Special Project. There we go.
Let's be clear, that hasn't been aired yet, despite the applause.
The last thing that I want to highlight is Special Project. Special Project. I put my D on that. The last thing I want to highlight is something you know, because you guys know me. I'm not naturally funny. And having said that, if you have sympathy, laughter, somewhere deep within your heart, now is the time. If only I had that. If only I had this. If only she loved me. If only he cared. If only. Evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't guessed by now, the title of my speech is If Only. You know, before we moved to Johannesburg, we used to stay in Pretoria. And if anybody knows anything about Pretoria, it is this. In fact, I'm going to repeat that just for emphasis. If anybody knows anything about Pretoria, it is this. That place is hot. Having said that, you know, the one thing that people remember, I mean, forget about the fact that they have less traffic than we have here, their streets are cleaner than that of ours, or the fact that they probably have less crime than we have here. The one thing that people remember is that that place is hot. So having said that, I remember back in my varsity days when I was doing my undergrad, I couldn't help but say to myself, if only I had a car. Not for the sake of arriving on time for my lectures, as honorable as that would have been. And not for the sake of ensuring I was at all the coolest parties. Because believe it or not, Kulile, for some reason, all the coolest parties were at places where public transport And then lastly, not for the sake of standing a better chance with all the finer looking ladies on campus. Because I mean, hey, let's face it, I'm not that tall. I'm not But it's fun, and this is a very big fun. As for the dark and handsome bitch. But I digress. So the one reason that I wanted a car was for this one reason. That being aircon. Just aircon. Because if anybody knows anything about Pretoria, that place is hot. But this is where I learned that the man upstairs really has a sense of humor. Because in April 2015, I got that car. And yeah, it was a second-hand car. Wasn't in its best condition. I mean, you turn it on, put the handbrake down and take off, but for some reason, the handbrake light never went off. But you know what? That is my car. And what it means is I get to go where I want, when I want. But this is where I learned that the man upstairs really has a sense of humor. Because despite having an aircon in my car, guess what?
There's no heater.
It only blows hot air. But I learned a profound lesson from that experience. Very profound lesson. So much so, I wouldn't trade my car for any other car. I wouldn't. And I really mean that. And the lesson that I learned is that it's not the things that you have that make you happy, but rather your ability to be content with the things that you have. And so these days when it gets hot, I don't say to myself, if only my aircon worked, or if only I had the money to fix my aircon. No, instead I say, thank God for electric windows. Thank you, ladies.